Luke Perry is a tenured professor and chair of the Department of Government and Politics at Utica College, graduate fellow at the University of Massachusetts, where he earned an MA and PhD in political science, with an expertise in American politics. Fulbright scholar, Perry has lectured at universities throughout Europe and worked with various organizations, including the Junior Statesmen of America, the Kellogg Foundation, U.S. Peace Corps, and the Washington Center. His current research focuses on U.S. elections, and there's a lot to focus in on, as we're already talking 2020. The budget released, by the way, and wall funding there, Pelosi saying ain't going to happen, and Pelosi talking about impeachment. And there's also what looks like a civil war going on in the Democratic Party. Luke Perry, good morning. Let's start with the civil war in the Democratic Party. What are your thoughts?
Well, certainly it's going to be a heavily contested primary, and the debates will start this summer, so it's right around the corner, whether we realize it or not. Democrats feel good about their chances in the presidential election, so there'll be probably 15, 20 candidates, and as we know, elections can get testy even within the same party, so I think that's one issue. And the second issue is that with the 2018 election, there was a large number of freshman members of Congress elected on the Democratic side, and there's some tensions between the direction they want the party to head and what senior members and leadership want to do now that the Democrats control the House. So I think those are the two main divisions.
Were you surprised that the Democrats announced that Fox News will be excluded from any of the primary debates?
A little bit. I mean, I think this was coming for some time. There's been different interpretations of Fox News, and of course, most people don't realize that there's the opinion/editorial side of news outlets, then there's the news side. And Fox News is known more for its editorial and opinion side, which are their big programs in prime time. So I think, the Democratic leadership had enough in terms of how they've been covering the Trump presidency and decided to draw a line. It'll be interesting to see what the repercussions are.
I've always said that if you take a look at Fox News Sunday with Chris Wallace, you couldn't find a more fair program. I think he is a great, I believe, one of the best journalists out there. Fox News Radio is another great example, top and bottom of the hour here at WIBX. It's news. And I think that we as a public do have a difficulty, and this goes for NBC, CBS, ABC, CNN, MSNBC, the same as well, is we struggle trying to figure out the difference between a newscast and an editorial where we're getting somebody giving opinion.
Yes, I think one of the most difficult or problematic developments in American politics over my lifetime is the rise of cable news networks. I think they're just awful for the dissemination of political news, particularly national political news. Now, they're also very lucrative, and Fox News certainly didn't develop that model, but they have been exceptionally good at it. So, and they cater deliberately to a conservative audience, and they've been able to monetize that. So I don't begrudge them for that, but as a political scientist, I just wish we could go back and hit the pause button before cable news developed, because 24-hour news cycles don't really help American politics. They do a lot more damage than good, I think.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. But we end up being addicted to it. I think you just can't walk away from it, it seems. The president announcing his budget, which included wall funding and pulling back on some social programs. It's almost as if the president threw some things out there that the Democrats could use as bargaining chips so that maybe they could meet somewhere in the middle. What are your thoughts?
I don't think a budget's going to be passed. It hasn't been passed regularly for several years. Yeah. So I think the president annually proposes a budget. I think it's more of a political document where it hints to the public and supporters what the president's priorities are, but it's very unlikely that this is going to come to pass, or even that it's going to be used in a concrete way to try to negotiate a budget. Because with divided government, I think it's going to be more of the same in terms of continuing resolutions and that style of funding the government, which has been the norm for several years.
Pelosi yesterday coming out and saying she doesn't really see impeachment. It would take a lot to reach the level of impeachment, and currently she doesn't see that and feels that there'd be more damage to going down the impeachment road than good coming out of it. What is your take on it?
I think that's unsurprising. Pelosi said during the campaign that Democrats were not campaigning on impeachment, and if she were to become Speaker, that would not be a priority. So in some ways, I think she's making good on what she said before the last election. Politically, I think it makes sense. Impeachment is a highly imperfect process in American government, and it's also highly partisan. And that doesn't mean there aren't legitimate grounds for impeachment, but it just doesn't happen a lot. It's ugly when it does, and so I think it's very understandable that she's not excited about the prospect of doing that. And her main challenge is trying to manage the Democratic caucus, some of whom want to move ahead with this, as you know. So I think that will be interesting to see. And instead, the Democrats will continue to conduct oversight, gather more information, and unless there's, very clear, concrete allegations of specific illegality, I would be surprised if Democratic leadership moved forward with any kind of vote.
There's this representative who's a Muslim representative, Omar, who made statements over the course of the last couple of weeks, and most particular statement that basically talked about it's all about the Benjamins, it's all about the money when it comes to our support of Israel. Her comments are being called anti-Semitic. Are her comments political, or are they anti-Semitic? And the Democrats' reaction to it was to really just kind of frown upon all speech that is considered hateful, not in particular the speech that she had given, in the words that came out of her mouth. What's your take on, A, how Democrats handled it, and B, were her comments anti-Semitic?
The Democrats didn't handle it well, particularly the leadership. So there's this sense that some of her comments were inappropriate and needed to be responded to. And then the question became how to do that. And that took the form of a resolution, which morphed into, as you said, sort of a broad condemnation of bigotry and hatred. I think there's two issues. One, with this representative, I think her supporters also are freshman members of Congress who are keenly aware of the fact that she's a religious minority, she's an ethnic minority, she's a woman who is also a minority in Congress, and feel like she's being targeted in part or large part because of that, and have rallied to her defense. I also think that there's difficulty in American politics right now with any criticism of support for Israel. And that extends to both parties and has led to a situation where it's very difficult to reflect on American foreign policy in regards to that part of the world, and particularly as it relates to Israel, because of America's historic support. So I do think it's overdue for some reflection in terms of the advantages and disadvantages of America's support for Israel. But certainly I think how this representative has gone about it has not been helpful to her own case or to the Democratic Party. Language matters, and how you communicate your concerns is important.
It probably doesn't help that she's Muslim.
Yes, and grew up in a refugee camp, and, there are cultural differences and all these types of things as well. So, yes, when we talk about being a religious minority, religion and politics is something I've researched, and it takes time for the country at large to develop comfort with religious minorities when they obtain positions of political power. We've seen this time and again with various Christian denominations that were not Protestant, and now we're seeing it with other world religions. So certainly there are challenges for her, just given the happenstance of her religious beliefs.
Yeah. Are you surprised? This will be the last one I throw at you. Are you surprised? Obviously Anthony Brindisi campaigned on basically a platform that was, I don't want to say anti-Pelosi, but he was not going to be siding with Nancy Pelosi, wouldn't support her for the speaker position, etc. But it's almost as if Pelosi has come back to the middle, and you're looking at this other left wing of the party, which places Anthony Brindisi closer to Pelosi, whether he wants it or not, than he is on AOC or any of the others from the left. What's your take on this interesting dynamic?
It seems to me that Representative Brindisi has certainly drawn a contrast between himself and more liberal freshman Democrats, particularly AOC. At the town hall in Rome, he criticized the Green New Deal. He recently said that he's a target of AOC, and he's okay with that because he's getting criticized from both sides. He thinks he's doing his job well.
Yeah.
So I think he's sort of welcomed that, or at least shrugged it off and not let it bother him. I think the Pelosi issue is a little more complicated. He certainly did not campaign as someone who would sort of blindly support Speaker Pelosi, and he certainly hasn't done that. But I don't think the Speaker is happy about it because it's kind of an in-the-weeds point. But there's been 2 motions to recommit over the last 2 months, and this is when the opposition party, Republicans in this case, if they have some Democratic support, can interject things into bills in the form of amendments with very little notice and very little debate. And Brzezinski voted twice for those, and that led to a closed-door meeting led by Speaker Pelosi where she kind of reamed out Democrats and said, we're all on the same team and you have to take tough votes, and if you don't play by the rules, the DCCC and the Democrats are not going to prioritize you much when it comes to campaign time. So I think that is not welcomed by Pelosi because the Republicans were able to prevent any of these motions from happening over the last 7 years, and when Pelosi was Speaker before, she did the same. So I think there's a control issue, and I think moderate Democrats such as Brindisi have drawn the ire of the Speaker, but that's been more, kind of like I said, in the weeds and behind closed doors.
Well, if I'm Brindisi, I'd be saying, okay, you want me or do you want Claudia? You have your choice. Not much of a choice for the Speaker. So interesting stuff.
Sorry, if I could just interject, I do think Claudia Tenney is kind of positioning herself to run again. So
it does seem that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, we may have a rematch there.
Might have a rematch after all.
And just think about the question that you asked. If we would have thought about this a year ago, if we would have thought that would have been realistic, some Democrats have gone so far left that you say
Pelosi's looking like a moderate. It's crazy.
It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, it really is. Politics. It is quite interesting. Luke, we appreciate it as always. Luke Perry, we'll do it again.
Thanks so much.
All right. Luke Perry from Utica College.